G'day everyone, it's Woody here, and we're doing another speaker chat with one of our speakers, Michelle Rath. G'day Michelle.
Hey James, how you doing?
Yeah, really good. Hey, Michelle, I wanna start this little chat off with a little bit of a trigger warning because we're going to talk about some pretty sensitive stuff, and there might be a few people out there that have lost a loved one or a relative or a family member. So I just wanted to make that clear at the start that, if anyone does get a little bit upset by this chat, including you, Michelle, we can stop at any time. So I hope you're okay with that.
Yeah, all good.
Can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what part of this country you live in, Michelle?
I live in Adelaide, been here for 26 years now, so I'm still not local. Still visiting. It wasn't my plan to stay in Adelaide, but circumstances as it would have, this is where it now needs to be.
And prior to Adelaide, you moved around a fair bit, didn't you?
Yeah, we're ex-military, ex-Air Force, so we moved around every 3 years. Moved to Adelaide to be close to my mother as she got older, and mostly for the boys to get to know her growing up.
Yep. And you had 3 boys, is that correct?
3 boys. I've got Ashley, Curtis, and Alex, my baby.
Okay. All right. So I suppose that's a good lead in to ask you what made you become a safety speaker and want to share your story.
7.5 years ago, life changed, and we lost our younger son, Alex, to a workplace accident. So, by me sharing his story, talking to businesses and whatnot, just allows me to sort of, I guess, get up each day and know that I can probably make a difference by sharing his story.
Great. And how old was Alex at the time?
Alex was 23. He passed away on my 49th birthday. So that's something that is a struggle each year. We get to almost October and I start to get a little bit of anxiety kicking in because October, November, December, January, you get into those busy times. And it's quite difficult without him at those celebrations. So
well, I'm around the same vintage as you, Michelle, and I find that as I get older, I actually look forward to my birthday. It wasn't as big a thing when I was younger, but that I'm in my 50s, I do actually look forward to that time of year. But I guess it's totally the opposite for you and for someone that's had a traumatic event around your birthdays, a time that you should be celebrating. It just doesn't work like that for you guys.
Not at all. Gives me goosebumps talking about it because it's obviously very personal, and I sort of think January is really not that far away. Yeah. And if I could run away from that particular month, I'd definitely do that. It's a bit of a struggle. Yeah. But in saying that, I've got family who are very supportive. Yeah. The boys know they're very considerate and want to be around family at that time of the year. So that is the good side that brings us all very close to one another.
And I guess that's one of the things I know, because I've listened to your story many times, Michelle. I know that's one of the things that you try and get across to people when you share your story, is that when something like this happens to a family unit, it just changes things in so many different ways. Birthdays, significant events. When there's someone missing that should be there, it's just not the same, is it? And that's something that people don't understand until they experience it.
Yeah, it's very empty at those times of the year, let alone normal day-to-day business when you're sort of moving into this new house. And Alex not being part of that is, I know he would love it and he'd love to spend time on the property but when it's those special occasions, Mother's Day is another one that I struggle through, obviously. It's just really quite traumatic, I guess. It's not something you ever get over. And unless you've been down that track, you couldn't possibly understand it, but you also don't want other people to have to walk in your shoes, which is why the message is shared.
No, that's great. How long have you been sharing Alex's story for?
7 years, thereabouts, before I met you. I used to do, I guess, sessions to local places like the government and training organisations, just to try and, I guess, shed some light on what happened to our family. And again, it has helped me heal in some respect, to be able to talk about him, because I take him everywhere I go. Obviously, is a big part of it. So that's not something that I can ever see that will change. I need to do this for my own mental well-being as well. And like I said, it allows Alex to live through my voice.
No, I think that's important too, and that's one of the things that I've picked up on when I've listened to you share your story, is that it does keep Alex alive. It keeps Alex's memories.
Exactly.
So that's brilliant. I think this is a strange question, and I know the answer to it. Is Alex still involved in your family? I know, for people that haven't, lost someone, that might sound like a bit of a strange question.
He's always here. Some of the funny things that happen in day-to-day life, we're always yelling out his name. Things will just fall out of a cupboard and we just yell out Alex, because that was his job when he was younger. Like I said, we've moved house recently as well, and we have this little picture that I bought as a present, and I couldn't part with it. There was something in me, and I went, I just love that, and just loved what it represented. And it lights up. And it's been, we've had it for seven plus years. Never changed the battery. It's never worked. But when we moved house, that first night that we moved in here, it lit up like a Christmas tree. To me, that is Alex, because he had this infectious smile and gave me so much, and Robert as well. We always turn around and go, Alex is here. It just gives us comfort. So I guess it's you take out of the positives on what we know he was like.
Yeah, and I think that's part of your coping mechanism is by looking at the positives. I mean, if you were looking at the negative side of losing Alex, I think that wouldn't be good for you and your husband Rob and the rest of your family as well. So if you can concentrate, because I know for a fact, I mean, I'm a mad NRL fan, and I know for a fact that you always include Alex in the State of Origin matches each year. And
yep, definitely. November game 1 in Adelaide, I think it is.
Yes.
We've been waiting for a few months now with COVID, but we'll be there. And he loved his Origin, and yes, you're right, he's still a big part of that. So we do include him in everything we do, because to us he's still here, whether it's not physical presence. We take him along for the ride wherever we go.
And I guess one of the other things I'd like you just to share with anyone that's listening to this is you still see Alex on a regular basis. You visit him, daily, and if you can't make it yourself, you always make sure that someone else can go and see him.
Yeah, that is, again, for my own mental well-being and a mum thing, I guess. Tuck her little boy in for the night. I've always had that belief that I want to kiss him goodnight to make sure he's in a safe place. Sounds a bit weird to some people, I guess, but on the other hand, as parents, we always want to say goodnight to our kids. So yeah, I do. I visit him either daily. If I can't make it, my husband, or if we go away, then I've got friends, or Curtis, my middle son, he will even drop in and, check on his little brother.
Okay, so just going back to sharing his story with workplaces and training. Um, what do you think is one thing that you'd like people to take out of your story, and also what happened to Alex?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? For me, it's about just making a difference to make people stop and think that there are consequences to your actions. Just making.
I guess the reason I ask you that question is that I know that when I got hurt, I was the one that was in hospital and rehab. But I was just blown away by how much something that had happened to me had impacted on my family and my friends. And I guess that's one of the things that I pick up every time I listen to your story is, sure, Alex is not here anymore, but the ongoing impact that it's had on you and Rob, your boys, and now, I mean, down the track, your grandchildren and everybody else. It's just that's something that people don't think about. When you're out there doing your job and you do are faced with some risks. I don't think people think about, oh, if I get hurt here, or if I get something happens to me here, how's it going to affect other people? And
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, I can't even be in the house when we've got tradies around that do electrical work. That hits hard with me, and you'll see me fly out the door in my car to go elsewhere because I just can't deal with that situation. And Robert knows that, and he's respectful of that. Alex is more or less, he's left a bit of a legacy because there's a lot of people that we've bumped into around the place. There's a guy that we want to do some electrical work in this place. He's heard of Alex's story.
Yeah.
He was at Pier when Alex lost his life. So, I'm mindful that he may not want to do the work that we actually need to have done because he's very sensitive to it.
Yes.
So, it does impact on so many people that you don't really understand how widespread it can be.
Yeah. And just speaking of peer, I know that Alex has left a legacy with his group training, with his training group. He has an annual award in his name. Is that correct?
He does. It recently changed names last year to the Recognition of Safety Award, I think is the title. And unfortunately, because of COVID, it's been sort of pushed back till early next year now. Yeah, we do that annually as a reminder, and Alex's video gets shown to all new inductees that start with peer, which, again, is important that they know that this can happen to anybody.
Is that there are some people out there that sit in the groups that we speak to, and they think, oh yeah, that happened to Alex or that happened to James, but it won't happen to me. And I think that's one of the things that you and I both try and do is say, look, it happened to us. We know that this can happen, and by sharing our stories, we are trying to stop it from happening to somebody else and somebody else's family.
Yeah, it's naive to think that it can't happen to anybody. Nobody's exempt from an incident that, hopefully if that were to happen, that they get away with just a minor scrape. But, it can be fatal, which in Alex's case was what happened. So sharing the story just highlights that, everyday families are affected, and it's not just, Alex is not here to talk about it, but we are. And, if reaching out actually impacts on one person, as they come up to you and they talk to you after the sessions, and you've made a difference. You can walk away, hold your head high, and know that that person has at least thought about it. And when they go about their day-to-day role, then they might just be a little bit smarter in their thinking to save their own life, rather than have that mentality that it'll never happen to them.
And I think that brings us back to why we do what we do, Michelle, is that, if we can if we can stop even one person from going through some of the things that, that you're still going through and I've got to live with on a day-to-day basis, it just makes it worthwhile. And I guess, I'll keep doing it for as long as I think it's making an impact, and I'm sure you'll do the same.
Absolutely. It's not something that gets easier at all. I think if anything, it gets harder as time goes on, because, we're coming up to the 8-year mark now. And I always wonder what Alex would look like, and if he had kids, and, I'd see the other two boys getting older, and he will always have that baby face. That will never change. So I miss out on all that, but I capture a bit of that in the grandkids as well, and pick out these little traits of Tyler being like Alex. Whether I'm looking for that, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's the other thing I was going to mention, that you do have grandkids now that you didn't have when Alex was still around, and I know you've shared the story that he would have just loved playing with his nephews and having a great time with them.
Yeah, look, Tyler is especially boisterous. Pretty much like Alex and his older brother Ashley. They are just so similar, to the three of them, and he just would have loved being an uncle. And Tyler will grow up knowing the story behind his name, because he's Tyler Alexander. And it's unfortunate that he won't get to meet him, but he will grow up knowing him and knowing what he left behind, and Tyler will be all a bit smarter for that as well. A whole lot smarter. Yeah.
And I think everyone that listens to your story will be a little bit smarter too, Michelle. So I've got to congratulate you and thank you for the work that you do. So keep it going, and if anyone does want to listen to your story and learn a little bit about what happened to Alex, they can get in touch with you or get in touch with us, and go through us, and we can see if we can organise for you to have a chat to them.
Absolutely. It's where life makes a difference is sharing our stories.
Really. All right, so I think that's pretty much enough for today's story, Michelle. Thank you for your time, and like I said,
problems.
if anyone wants to get in touch with you, they can get in touch with me, and we'll put you in touch, or get in touch with Michelle direct. Thanks, Michelle.
Awesome. Norris Jones, cheers. Thanks.